we journey through this cold, dark world, we will carry you to light up the world with the light of the world.
So one of my favorite Christmas stories that I've never told before, I'm telling on my son, because he's not in here right now. When Kaylin was 5, he was going to kindergarten. Cody was over in preschool for his 2 hours every third or fourth day. He'd go to preschool. So it was the day before, half day before Christmas vacation. And on half day, they have a Bible quiz and a party. So I was the homeroom mother for both classes. So we were all excited about the next day's fun Christmas parties and stuff. So Kaylin had crawled in the car early. We were kind of waiting for Cody. And so I said, okay, what's tomorrow? And he said, well, we've got Christmas quiz, and then we've got a Christmas party. You know, we were so excited. And so he's just all amped up. And I said, okay, let's practice. I said, okay, who was Jesus' mom and dad? Mary and Joseph. Okay, who was their cousin? Elizabeth. Okay, who jumped in the womb? John the Baptist. Where was he born? Bethlehem. Okay, and I'm just rambling off these questions, and he's just totally in the mode of it. And I said, okay, what did Joseph do for a living? He goes, he was a carpenter. And I said, what did Mary do for a living? He goes, she was a virgin. Like it was a job description. I'm going to roll with that. I like that.
I like it.
And he was so serious. Well, I did exactly what you did. You just stopped, and then I just burst out laughing. And he kind of got offended. He looks at me, he goes, well, what is that anyway? And I am you know, I'm gone. And I said, well, we'll have to talk to Daddy when we get home.
Yes, let Daddy tell you.
And he goes,
in 10 years.
he says, you're just laughing because you don't know what one is either. If you weren't 5, I'd knock you through that wall right there.
So I love
But the
that.
importance of family, I know that that's very near and dear to all of us. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think all of us want to find a way that it does not just become chaos. I can start the moment I see Christmas decorations going up in any department store,
Right.
that stress level just starts rising. Especially, I think, with all of us women, we feel like we are in charge of that. I mean, how many of us, and this is not in any way dogging the men, I'm just saying that not many of them are in charge of buying the whole family something for Christmas and multiple things.
And the
It's just-
stress of making them feel Christmas this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that, I can just feel that begin to rise. And a couple of years ago, I just decided ours is too much. It's just it's gotten out of hand. And I felt like that with the grandkids getting old enough to be able to just look at this massive amount, just a mess of presents on Christmas morning. Let's bring this down. And if we don't want them to feel just like it's just consumerized Christmas, then we need to bring ours down too. And so we got a hold of it some and reined it in. And it was a huge relief, I think, to all of us. So we've tried to do that. It still is embarrassing, but at least it's not quite like it was. And I'm just trying so hard not to give way to that stress. Every single year, the moment we see the first bit of tinsel, we're just like,
which is now at Halloween, because everything is so commercialized, and so we're kind of getting adjusted to that. And I think in a way, you know what, I think in a way people are understanding that more.
Yes.
I really do. I think they realize that, you know what, it's going to be here and it's going to last even longer now. But, you know, in our family, because with Joel's family, I come from a small family, but he had a lot of brothers and sisters, and then the kids go out from there. So we were always good about drawing names. Now, I know that's simple, but that is something that takes the stress out of it.
Victoria.
And it can be fun. Like what we did for all of our kids, we would do it on Thanksgiving. When we were all together at Thanksgiving, everybody would be so excited about drawing names. So that was part of the fun, you know. So I just think there's simple things that you can do to continue to keep the expectation and the excitement of Christmas, not losing the joy, but bringing it down, like you said, getting a hold of it. So that just makes it easy.
The grandparents don't get to draw names. We buy gifts for everyone.
For everyone.
And I have 11 grandchildren.
Oh, Betty, what do you do with that?
Well, I mean, I have a list, you know, and try to do it according to, of course, their age and what. Now I get all the girls the same thing. Okay. I get all the guys the same thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and that way there won't be any comparing.
No comparing.
Of course, mine are older now, so it's more about the family getting together.
Yes.
And normally the Christmas time is at our home, and that's what I get so excited about. I will start setting the tables, the placing several days before.
Yeah.
I'm so
Her
excited.
table's set right now.
Yeah,
Susie, I'm so glad you brought that up because
She's
she
ready.
told us on the way that her
Yeah.
table was already set.
But
Is
the
that
excitement
gorgeous?
of that, and it's
Yeah.
because my family's coming
Exactly.
together. It's not about all the food at all, but it's just the gathering, and we laugh a lot. But yet, the center we never forget is Christ's birthday.
Yes.
You know, but it's just the fun of it. And I thought the excitement I have in my own heart and spirit about my family coming together. I thought that's the kind of excitement I believe God has about His family coming together. He's preparing a table, and we need to come together and rejoice and celebrate together.
Yeah. Well, I can't really talk about the stress of Christmas without telling one little story on myself. When our children were, 2 girls, when they were maybe elementary school age, my husband was pastoring, and we had a Christmas pageant. You know how church adds to all, with the presents and all of that. Then you got to be every night at rehearsals. Everybody knows that experience. And by about the second week of December, I had all the stress I could take, and especially with people yelling, "Mom, Mom, Mom," and it doesn't matter. They're on the second floor in the bathroom. You're in the kitchen. They scream, "Mom!" You're supposed to jump and do it, "Mom, Mom, Mom," and then we have Susie, the other person in the family, and one year I said, I cannot take that word anymore. I cannot take it. From now on, through Christmas, you call me Harold. I cannot take Mom. And so they will say to me now, "Is it Harold time?" And I say, "Yes, it is."
Harold.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is Harold time.
Yes.
So that has become a family joke, yeah. But
Okay, y'all, we're all going to be Harold this year. I'm going with that
go
too.
with Harold.
I like
It's
that.
just something about that is liberating, Beth. I don't know what it is.
So go.
Oh, I was just going to tell you, this isn't even a story on me, but it's one of my very, very favorite Christmas stories on Priscilla Shire. Do most of you know her? I love her so much. I'm just a mighty Bible teacher, and her father is Dr. Tony Evans, and their family was getting together for Christmas, as they always do, several years ago now, and her middle son was her youngest at that time. And so, of course, they all come together, and then they sit through a story that Dr. Evans tells the whole family before they can open presents. So their presents are in front of them, and all they can do is stare at those presents. And I may not get this exactly right, but just listen to this. It certainly is the idea of it. All these presents were in front of the little guy. He's just staring at them, and he can't open them yet. But Dr. Evans is telling the story about the Magi and how they brought the gifts to Jesus, brought the gifts and set them in front of Jesus. And the little guy looks up and he goes, "Am I Jesus?" Just absolute perfection. Just it was like, no, no. But I loved it. I think about it every single year.
You know what's so special about that is it's a tradition.
Yes.
And those children will grow up remembering that, as painful as it felt at the time.
Yes.
Remembering that tradition.
Yes.
And that's what's so beautiful, you know, and everybody's traditions are different, you know, just like that. I mean, I can only imagine those kids staring at that present, you know. But I just love that. I love to hear about people's traditions. I love the fact that some people have to start new traditions. You know, maybe things have happened in their family, and they realize, you know what, it's different now. I'm in a different season. So, you know, I just love to empower people to say, you know, this might be a different season for you. And maybe you found yourself in a divorce and you're with your children now and your husband's not there. And there's nothing wrong with starting new traditions. And don't just feel like, you know what, it's never going to be the same. But, you know, that newness of tradition. And I think that's what's so beautiful about traditions is that we can they can be passed down, but they can also start anew.
One of the things that I do, I have a tradition of my own that is not dependent upon which part of my family is there. I get up early, I turn the lights on the Christmas tree and on the mantle, and otherwise it's just dark, and just light the fire. But I listen to Mariah Carey's Jesus Born on This Day. Oh, it's just the best. But I always play it just me and Jesus.
I love
just
that.
me. Why not just a tradition of your own that if nobody is there, well, listen, he's watching for you. You can make your own tradition that makes you aware that he is present with you and that he is the gift, and just to try something new that just takes the two of you.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
And it fills you
everything
up.
else. It does.
It fills you up for when everyone else gets up.
Right.
And the day starts. I love that idea, because we do always are thinking about someone else, and we should think about our family. But you know what? Until you're full,
That's
until
right.
you're satisfied, you can't give that away. And that's why I think that is so beautiful. That, I think that will spark a lot of people thinking, you know what? Maybe I'll get up 15 minutes early and I'll be just by myself. Turn on those Christmas lights and just say, Jesus, thank you,
just
before
motivate
everything starts.
And
It's
it
a
doesn't.
ritual. It's a personal ritual. I have those too, and
it
it's
doesn't-
just to you, just that you know.
It doesn't
It's
depend on
important.
anybody else's
No,
participation.
it doesn't.
'Cause you can
Exactly.
be let down by that.
Yeah, what if
if you're not,
everybody's not in a good mood?
right?
You know,
You think you broke up on the
I'm having my moment, whether anybody's in a bad mood or not.
Absolutely.
I want this.
Yeah, but it's like that you don't have to do on Christmas, like you were saying. But this year I like to start a little early to try to figure out what do I want to happen January 1st. I don't want to wait till January 1st, and then I look up and it goes so quickly anyway. It's like January 20th, and I'm like, I don't even have what I'm going to do. And it's kind of when you're talking about that, it's like living intentional.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of where I want to really focus my attention as the new year starts, because it's so easy to get swept up in life and swept up with your family. Just like that's so intentional to just get up and say, you know what, this is gonna be something meaningful to me. And I just think that even inspires me to think that's just another way to live intentional before everything comes and consumes you. And just, even if you're going to have fun, I'm intentionally going to have fun today.
Absolutely.
And I'm intentionally going to enjoy this.
Yes,
A lot of
ma'am.
times there
I have
is,
1,000 things to
Yes,
do.
ma'am.
A lot
But
of
this
times
is it.
there is kind of a letdown after the holiday,
Yes.
after Christmas, whatever that is. And so I think I agree with you. We need to step right into it and say, what's my purpose
Yes.
for this time, this day, this
One of the
week?
things, one of my little rituals is, which I start during Christmas, is a lady shared this with me years ago, and that is to ask the Lord to give you a verse for the next year, for January the 1st. And so I do that start thinking, praying, Lord, what verse, what shall I praise? As you're reading, just in your regular readings, what verse can I claim for this year to live by, to use to teach me? It's a personal ritual, but it's what you're talking about, very intentional.
What have some of those scriptures been?
Oh, well, this year my verse was a very short one, Lord, increase my faith, like the disciples. But just one of my favorite ones was in Hebrews, that God has equipped you with every good thing to do his will. Every good thing we need, God has given us, and he has equipped us to do his will. It's the last chapter of Hebrews. And just verses to kind of live by and remember to sow good seed. That was my verse for my decade of my 60s, to sow good seed that takes a harvest, and to be intentional, exactly, Victoria, what you're saying. So I think those rituals are really ground you in your spiritual life, no matter what season of life
Exactly,
you're in.
it's an anchor.
Yes,
the
exactly.
Bible, the word is an anchor for our soul,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
so easily you can be challenged with something and you go back to, I have everything
Yes.
to fulfill my destiny, and you bring yourself back to that. You know what,
Remind
I may
yourself.
not feel like
Yes.
it, but you know what, but God says that I am. He's prepared me for the foundation. So God, you know what? With your help, I'm going to do my part, and you're going to do yours, and
Yes.
we're going to get this thing done.
We are.
You know?
We are, and we're going to know that it's going to get done in the midst of a lot of problems and a lot of trials. That we just know that going in. Do you guys journal at all? Do you keep any kind? I just love it. I'm going to tell you. I know it's not
wish I
everybody's
did.
thing.
What about those losers that don't
No,
do that?
no, it's just not everybody's.
I'm a loser, but
Okay, it's not everybody's
started really
but
making
when,
an effort
when we're
to
talking
do
about
it, yeah.
traditions and things that we like to practice, this is one thing I love to do. I've got a lump in my throat telling you guys about it because it's profound to me every single year. When I come to the first, I always begin with a letter, and I begin to Jesus and what verse I think he's laying on my heart. But then I hand him, I just lift him up that blank journal. And I always say the same general thing. I must try not to cry, but Lord, it's just here. I have no idea. I don't even know I could see you before I finish this journal. I have no idea what our health situations will be, what this world will be like. But this I know, and I begin to confess to him who he will be in the blank pages ahead in that year. You will be faithful. You will be mighty. You have divine power to break apart everything that binds us, to make that confession that no matter what gets filled in that year, my God is going to be faithful. And it is a powerful thing to know. And then you start living it out, like I'm coming to the end of another one. And I glanced back over it this year. I'm so sorry, y'all, but it's just so tender to my heart. And it was just like, you were.
Yeah.
You did everything you said you would do. And we had some hard times, and we had wonderful times, and we're laughers at our house. But my God was faithful, and here we are. And sometimes, you know, we Moores are a flawed group, but we laugh hard. We laugh hard, and we've been through a lot, so much together, and we do it together. We're very much with one another. There's a lot of solidarity in our family. But to just look around and do this with those that are with you, that you've gone through something tough with. It could be good friends, or whatever it may be. Have you gone through some things together? Then look at one another and go, here we are.
Yeah.
It's a memorial stone.
Yes.
It's, and that serves us as a
Didn't kill
memorial.
us. I don't know any other way to put it. He didn't kill us, and goodness knows he
Yeah,
wanted to.
Right.
that's neat.
I think I journal, and I think there's something really, it helps me if I'm struggling with something, the healing process, you know, and just everyday life. And I find myself more often than not saying, God, first of all, search my heart. I want to start this day, this moment, this year, search my heart, and anything in there that's not good, remove it. Because like you, Beth, I want it to be a clean slate. It's a new day, and it has tremendously helped me because I like to journal on my iPad or make notes and sometimes when I'm there just in my quiet time I'll go back and read those notes. I even write scripture down a lot because it's just right there that really touched my heart, and I'll go back and read those, and God really does convict me in some of those things when I go back and I remember, and yet it's also like you said, Beth, it's God said, see, I told you. But it has helped me so much in the journaling process because I can write down my immediate thoughts and put them on paper, and then go back later and say, well, God, you helped me through that. You helped me walk through that. And I think that sometimes we try to hide those feelings, and it slows the healing process down. And I don't want that to happen because I want to go forward. I have beautiful children. I have 2 other children that have beautiful families, and I don't want to get stuck down there in that pit because it's not fun.
No.
There's days, yes, I still have days where I weep, I cry out, but also most of them are rejoicing. God, thank you. Thank you for those moments and those days, those years that we had with Robin. And she was such a blessing and a light. God, thank you.
But you made a choice.
Yes.
I did.
And that's what it's
That's what's
about, a
important, the
choice.
choice.
It's your choice. And you could, like you said, get stuck, or you can look at it and say, I've got a lot of life to live. I have people who need me. But you know what I'm hearing a lot of, and I feel like this is, because we're all women, I feel like that I keep hearing this is what I had to do. This is what I had to do for myself. This is what I had to do. And I think so many women forget that they can do these things to build themselves up in the faith, to become strong, to be everything that we want to be. But if we don't start with ourselves and understand the value that we have to place within ourselves, we can't give that value away, because you cannot give away what you don't possess.
That's so right.
And so I
Victoria.
think that's just a key in this holiday season, is to not even think, this is so stressful, you know, this is hard, it's like, what can I do to make this more beautiful?
Yeah.
Even if it's a hard time, which I can't imagine losing a child.
No.
That's not a natural thing. It's not supposed to happen, right? But you made a choice to say, what can I do to be everything I'm supposed to be in this season? And that's just what I'm hearing, and I love it. It feeds my soul. It reminds me, it grounds me. You know, it's just amazing.
You know what, though, that's so cool is that what you were saying is that we couldn't tell you if we haven't lived it ourselves. We are all a witness of the faithfulness and the goodness of God in our lives. You know, and talk about journaling. I'm not a good journaler, but your Psalm of Ascent book, Bible study, talking about how God can take, you know, in the Psalms, David said everything, every emotion, everything we could ever possibly go through, David wrote on the pages of Psalms. And God can take that. God can take you saying, how long do my enemies sit here and the vultures come and, you know, try to drive me crazy and they're constantly at me. God can take that frustration and then, oh, the goodness of God, the faithfulness of God that came to my rescue, that came, you know, and was my tower and my strength. And I have written down at times of deep sorrow, of deep pain, and written that down because I have been a witness of the faithfulness of God, just to say, this is where I was, but now look. That's how I felt, and you almost go, whoa. And you have that memory of, I was in such a pit, but God has brought me out. And God has, you know, coming out without the smell of smoke. You know, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and that he broke the bondages, and now there's no smoke. You don't even smell it.
It's a beautiful thing.
You know, and that's what God gives you. That's what God can do for you in your life if you choose. He's given us that free will to choose. I am not going to stay where I am at any longer. God is more than that. God is more than where you are right now. God is more than your situation. He's got so much more for you, and it's just a choice.
That's right.
And there's a lot of people that experience loss and continual pain. And there will be those that will come around to comfort. And they comfort the best they can if they haven't gone through what you know, I did the same thing. I had never lost a child. But I comforted those that I could the best I could. But one person, the one that can comfort completely, is Jesus, because he does understand. And yes, I welcome and I thank the friends and family that come to comfort. But my drawing toward him has been the biggest delight in my life, even through the tough circumstances.
I just want somebody to know that yes, we celebrate the birth, but with Christ, we also celebrate the fullness of the one who paid for every sin, pardoned us through the power of his cross, was raised from the dead so that we would be raised with him. And the first coming looks forward to the second coming. So that infant that we celebrate this time of year, it takes us all the way through the cross and resurrection until we see his face.
And that's why we celebrate so hard. That's the reason, is that was the time, the fullness of time had come to where Jesus, when he was born, that was going to accomplish our redemption right there.
You know, we were created with a need to worship. And I know many of our audience, and you have all been all over the world and seen religions where people will worship strange gods, pagan gods, but we were created with a need to worship and a need to celebrate. And I think about that at Christmas and with Santa and Jingle Bells and all the fun stuff. That's celebration, you know, and I don't ever want to be so serious about it that you can't enjoy the celebration of it.
You know, the thing about having Christmas is having small children around, and that's why when you have your grandchildren, it creates a newness. Because when your children start growing up, they don't need what they needed before, and maybe some of the traditions we're not going to do that anymore. So what a blessing it is to just be able to have the grandchildren come and just continue in that family. We used to do this because we'd get up, Joel and I, and just spend it with our 2 children, Jonathan and Alexandra. So what we did early on is we took what we thought was the biggest gift or the most, exciting gift, or maybe the gift they didn't know about, because you know how kids are, they make their lists. And Joel would get up early and he would do clues all around the house. One clue would lead to the next clue, would lead to the next clue. But it was just one of the times that we enjoyed so much, because it would be our last gift to open, and one child would do it, and then we'd go through the whole thing again with the next child. So what fun things. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. But when we have grandchildren, we're going to do that.
Do it again.
That's when you start some new traditions, as a grandparent. And we did that last year. We started a new, which I hope will be a tradition, where we give somebody told me this, and I immediately stole the idea, which is my normal MO. Immediately stole it. We give each grandchild a certain amount of cash, like $20. We have 6 of them. And then tell them, this is your money to give away. It's your decision. You can give it whoever you want to, but on Christmas Eve, we're going to share who you gave it to and why you chose that reason. And it's so fun to hear their little, one of our grandson last year said, I just saw that picture of that little girl with the dirty face on the North Texas Food Bank billboard on the tollway every day on the way to school. And so that's where he gave his money. So you'd start, as your children get older, you can start some new traditions, especially if you hear people that do things, immediately steal them and take them for your own and talk about them on TV.
I really think that's a good way in any area to teach your children to be givers. And I think that, sometimes we don't think about that until they get older, and you think, you can see how that's impacted their life and how they give. I remember every time my children would have friends come over, every time they would leave, the friend would leave with a toy. And I'd watch them leave, and they would give their toys away. And I'm like, we're trying to collect these things, Then I realized, what? I don't care. I would rather them give their toys away, But I think that Christmas time is just a natural time to serve or to teach your children to, go down to the food bank. And I think that's something that, if you get the chance to do it, and I love that idea so much, that it is more meaningful than anything in their life at the end of the day when they grow up. I think it's more meaningful than anything.
We need to instill those principles in our children when they're small, for sharing with one another and for giving to help those that are in need. I know some of our grandchildren, when they were real small, they would see us on TV and asking for help for the children that were hungry or thirsty, and we'd go see them, and they'd immediately bring up a big bag, Ziploc bag of all the change they have. They were so excited to give to those children, so those are valuable lessons they learn.
So valuable.
So from all these beautiful women and their lovely families, Merry Christmas to you.
To